and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think the underlying reason why a Chicago flips red becomes is because of fiscal irresponsibility.
The Crucial Convo podcast.
You could be anywhere if you're on this channel. Thank you for tuning in.
To the Crucial Convo podcast.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for stopping in. I know you're a busy woman out here. I wanted to get back with you and talk about a couple of things. So, how's your Tuesday been going?
It's been well. It's been well. Just we had our 1 year anniversary.
I saw.
Uh, well, Daily Plaza. This was the first time they said a Republican group actually did some house music and performed on the Daily Plaza stage. So it was kind of dope today. So
That's
hopefully
what's
they
up.
let us back. Hopefully we go back. But
No, y'all will be back. I want to just say congratulations to you. That's a beautiful thing. So, you know, just for those who are watching, I mean, if you're living under a rock, then you may not know. But if you're watching Chicago at all, you're definitely going to see Zoe Leigh and Danny C and everybody in the Chicago Flips Red movement. So let's get into it though. Let's get into it. A lot has happened since the last time you and I spoke. And I'm just, paying attention, looking at it. And, first of all, the Chicago Flips Red movement, like you said, it's been a year now. For people who don't know about the Chicago Flip Red movement, let people know like just the actual group itself. Because I almost look at it like it kind of reminds me of like maybe the Tea Party or something, like a small party that you started from the ground up and just are, let people know about Chicago Flips Red.
Chicago Fist Red is a conservative movement that was started a year ago out of the frustration of the city of Chicago um, unlawfully demolishing my family's building and not wanting to compensate, which is a violation of the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. I am a person who goes by the U.S. Constitution. Always went by the U.S. Constitution. Actually, like thought basically as long as the world is, I mean, as long as America is going by the U.S. Constitution, then we should be okay. And come to
Right.
find out that we are not going by the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is being manipulated, and just out of the frustration of not getting any help and the corruption in this city, and to people always hear our elders normalize Chicago's just that's just Chicago. You ain't gonna change Chicago. Chicago, that's just how Chicago is. It was like nah. So I've always been conservative. I've never been political. I've
Yeah.
always been an entrepreneur, and I teamed up with Danielle Carter Walters, Miss Jessica Jackson. Miss Jessica, we started 2 years just out there because of our property issues.
Hmm.
And then Danielle came in a year later, put the cherry on top,
Okay.
and we've been, running. We haven't stopped running.
Yeah.
I'm very, very blessed to have a small but mighty team, core members, but I have a real nation around me. Like we have, I mean, from the elders to the younger people wanting to get involved, all all men from all different races, colors, and ethnicity. Just a whole bunch of patriots. The
Hmm.
suburban moms are pulling up.
Chicago obviously has been a Democratic stronghold for 100 years. If people don't know, and would you say the movement is more? It's not really necessarily a love of Republicans per se, because when I look at it and I see people who criticize it, right? I think
Yeah,
people kind of look at it on the face and say, well, because there's some people that are Democrat to the core and the branding of it and all that. And tell
Right.
me if I'm wrong. Is it about Republicans, or is it more about challenging the status quo of the Democrats in Chicago, or both?
It's status. It's definitely challenging the status quo. I consider myself independent. I independently aligned with the Republican Party. I
Okay.
never ever I never ever said I'm going to dedicate myself to the Democrats. I'm going to dedicate myself to the Republicans. I never was into politics. I started seeing even before the situation with my mom. I started seeing just how our kids were not being protected. And I would tell my friends, like, we'd be at bars and I'd be like, man, like, these kids really can't read. Or I hear some of my friends who are teachers like, man, these kids out of control and stuff like that. I just started seeing little things like that. I'm like, man, we're the new adults. I'll be 40 in January. And it's
Hmm.
like, we can't keep like this selfish mindset. Like, we are the new aunties, the new uncles, the new parents.
That's a
Some,
fact.
I have a friend who's a grandparent,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
it's like we got to get out here. Then I'm just seeing like how our elders is just throwing them over to the side, and then and you're looking at everything as, well, why are we not saying anything? Because we are the ones who are employing all of these people that are in government.
Right.
So,
Right.
and then I realized just the importance of voting, because I was that person, like, I ain't, vote. It didn't matter. You understand? To me, I didn't care as long as I get money.
Right.
But once you get older, or once you actually, I guess, get in, because you got to really like once you get in the trenches, the political trenches, and really see what you're dealing with, you have to vote, and we have to get our people to vote. Like, we are, we have too many of us out here that do not vote, and they don't vote because, well, a vote doesn't count, and it's like, it does,
Right.
because you just saw what just happened in this last election,
Yeah.
and I think strategically we need to use our vote when we need to use our vote. But there was nothing as bad. I mean, like, Donald Trump is nothing compared to what we were about to go into if Kamala would have been in office.
Well, I have to agree with you there too, because I always tell people that too. I'm like, faced with the choices, I thought he was the better choice. What do you say to people who because there's people who are going to criticize uh flips red because of the fact they'll say, well, you know, just for example, right? So right now you got the whole No Kings protest all over the country. And
Right.
there's people who are going to say, well, do you agree with everything Donald Trump does? What about the racism within conservatism? I know how I think about it, but what do you say to people who are like, well, if you're going to be aligning with the Republican Party, what about all the problems within the Republican Party, as far as, you know,
Well, I feel like in any situation you go to, everything ain't perfect. I'm not scared of racism. It's racism on both sides. I was discriminated. It was racism and prejudice. I was clearly discriminated by the Democratic Party.
hmm
Okay, this is the party that is supposed to be party of peace, party of love, party of equality, party of equity, party of don't do anything wrong. They're not corrupt. Whole time they are the worst. And I'm not trying to sit here and say that the Republicans aren't, but the Republicans haven't. We haven't given our vote to the Republicans. We've given
you ain't
ninety
had a chance to
percent.
be governed by Republicans, right?
Yeah. So you can't. So
Yeah.
far, I'm so happy with my vote. You know what I'm saying? I'm really big on business, and that's why I keep trying to tell people, like, it's economics for me. So I don't care about a person telling me about Trump or Mark Rubio, or even, for instance, it was some text messages going around about some conservative young Republicans said the
Right.
word, the N word. And
Yeah.
then they had another guy said, I don't care. We talk about white people. We talk about white people like a dog. So we can talk about white people. We can talk about Hispanics. We can talk about Asians. But if they talk about us behind their back, and then their stuff just happened to get leaked,
Yeah.
we have to be, oh my God, I already knew. You sort of get, you know what I'm saying? Like, DeSantis. I'm not a fan of DeSantis.
Right.
However, I think DeSantis is a good governor.
Yeah. No,
You
that's
see
a
what I'm
good that's a
saying?
good point you make though, because a lot of times I think that's what I think is so interesting about this time. I think this time, whether people agree or not, we've opened up the conversation where we don't all have to agree, and I don't think you have to be like, oh, I'm loyal to this brand, because your point that you making is, to me, is one of the reasons why the Democratic Party in Illinois, for example, has been unscathed, because once people once people decide they're going to align with a party, they at that point don't criticize the party. They don't criticize anything. And I think that's what you guys are doing, in my opinion, is that y'all are criticizing not necessarily, it is the Democratic Party, not the whole
Yeah.
nation, but I always tell people you have to deal with what's in your backyard first. So I like the fact that you all are like, okay, there's a particular grievance in the city that we reside in and the constituents, and it's like, yo, we need to at least address that and talk about that, and not feel like, okay, I'm aligned with this party, therefore I can't say anything about these issues. So one of the things like I said, I've been watching you guys movement, and I see you guys at all the hearings. I saw most recently the Cook County budget
Oh, yeah.
2026 budget hearing. And what stuck out to me, and I want to talk to you about immigration too. There was a woman who spoke right before you, Lynetta Thomas, a veteran.
Yeah, she's part of our group.
Yeah, is she part of the movement too?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool, cool. I
He's
saw I
always
saw her
talked to her.
speak.
Yeah, yeah, that is good.
Yeah, she was
And she's
talking
running for
about
office.
she's running for office.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. Yeah, I saw her speak as a veteran, talking about the things that she went through a couple of years ago, and just the fact that there were resources when her home was flooded, and resources that she was not able to get, while they've been, expending money on illegal immigrants, or illegal migrants for, obviously food, shelter, and so on. And that's something that I think is not talked about a lot enough. So immigration for a minute. So I want to get your opinion, because since we till last talked, they had the raid on 75th and South Shore, which I thought was interesting. I want to
Right.
get your opinion on that. But what are you seeing on the ground? Because there's two different images, depending on what you watch. If you watch some news, obviously left-leaning news, they're going to show people extremely angry at ICE and the ICE raids. But then on the other side, you have the fact of, you have particularly Black American constituents who I find it interesting, because they seem to ironically dump all the illegal migrants in the Black neighborhoods for whatever reason. So I think that the 75th and South Shore thing, I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, Greater Chicagoland, and I know South Shore. I have good friends from that area, and
Right.
I know when I was hanging out in that area in the 90s and 2000s, it was all Black. So, but anyway, what's your opinion on that? What do you think?
Um. First, I was reading about a Judge Jeffrey Cummings. He is in the Northern District. He's a federal judge, and I think he was either Obama appointed or Biden appointed. And we actually have him, this same judge, on one of my mom's separate cases, housing case. He basically put out an order that ICE agents, federal ICE agents, can be locked up if they arrest anybody around the court that don't have a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And he also said that kids were getting zip tied.
Right.
And I was like, damn, you sitting on the bench lying? Like, you sitting on the actual bench lying. No child was zip tied. No American child was zip tied. To sit to continue to carry on that lying narrative is crazy to me, because a president, like, you're on a bench, like you are making rulings,
Right.
and you win against something that you have, everybody knows. That's the problem with Democratic Party. Democratic Party will put out this fear mongering, this stuff, and then they will not talk about it no more. So after it gets debunked, after you show it's not true, after they go find somebody, like they found 3 or 4 people that lived in 75th and South Shore, broke down, no, this has always been like this, it's always been terrible, then they don't want to talk about it no more. Just like they've sort of not talked about it now. ABC News just reached out to us asking about going over there because they want to talk to some residents. And I'm like, everybody needs to go over there and talk to them residents. Because the problem is, we have a president who is listening to the group of people who keep asking, yeah, we need you here, Trump. Yeah, we need you here. We need you to come and take care of this crime, because that right there, we can combat the crime that we're dealing with. Like I said, we ain't gonna be able to get it all.
Right.
We're gonna be able to get it to how DC is, how Memphis is right now. You know, they don't want to talk about that because they want to run. The Democrats have to run on some type of trauma, some type of drama. They don't ever want to find a solution.
I tell people, I'm like, you got to look at, like I said, 75th and South Shore. If you know Illinois, it's like, why the hell is ICE over there raiding 75th and South Shore? And it's like, it's funny.
Since 2023,
Yeah.
they deliberately, like, that's why, like, it's like, that's why they're going so hard. Why not to, especially Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson now, like, we're going to strike. Strike what? They don't say, what are you striking? But because the city put them Venezuelans in that building. The city gave them money, gave that slum. They just didn't know that was a slumlord building, but they did know, because it goes back to the buildings department.
Right.
See, the buildings department is the issue in the city of Chicago.
Okay.
The buildings department, there is like, I'll say about a good 15 to 20,000 buildings in the city of Chicago that should be condemned.
Wow.
They should be condemned, just like how they knocked down my family's building, just like that. They should have been knocked down. That should have been knocked down. 75th.
Well, Brandon Johnson was on the news saying after that raid happened, he was on the news saying that landlord had, I think, 15 to 20 different violations and
a murder. He didn't talk about the murder though. There was a murder there in June.
Really?
A Venezuelan that was murdered. He was murdered, and the guy who murdered him, he was part of the gang that was living in there. He put him in cement. He put the body in cement, made him concrete.
I think I did hear about that.
You see what I'm saying? But no one talked about that.
Yeah.
Now this guy kept getting the guy who killed him. He was out on bond. He's already out because no cash bond.
Yeah.
For marijuana charge, stealing charge. Because when they first got here, it was stealing from Macy's like crazy. They go to the Macy's down here. Mm-hmm. Then when that Macy's started hiring police, so then they started going out to like Oak Brook and stuff like that and start stealing out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but the city gave that building money. You can't even FOIA anything because this administration is so corrupt. They stopped at $637 million, right? $637 million in immigration money that was given. Ain't no way in the world it was just $637 million. That's just how much you can FOIA for.
Okay.
You can't FOIA for anything. And when I say whoever is working the FOIA department for the city of Chicago, he is the one who put them in there. because no one can FOIA anything. Every time you FOIA the city for anything, they come back with nothing for you.
With nothing.
Nothing.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, maybe this is this is a very simple, easy rhetorical question, maybe. But what do you think would have happened if they had took, and I'm just talking about the building on 75th and South Shore, right? Clearly a
Right.
black neighborhood. What do you think would have happened if they had placed migrants in, Evanston um or another part, North Chicago, or maybe even in the suburbs where maybe more affluent um white people or other races of people
Well,
live? What do you think would have happened?
they had some in DuPage, and they put them in this. I think it was the best. It was some type of hotel. They were in there for like 2 weeks. Then people got them out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like they they don't stay. Only place that they stayed for a very long time, which was surprise to me, was Streeterville. They had them
Okay.
in the inner Chicago in Streeterville. That is a block. It was Ohio, which is like a block away from Magma.
Right.
So that was the only. And I mean, but what I saw it. I saw white people leaving. I mean, selling a condo for half of what it was worth.
Mm,
I saw them going crazy, going off. I saw them trying to figure out how can they sue the city.
mm-hmm.
They had to put more police presence down there because it was to the point that they were everywhere. They were dealing with the migrants, the robberies, and then the teen takeovers, all in
Oh
Streeter.
wow, yeah, it's a lot.
So
Yeah.
I saw it, and I also saw the shift of the votes for the election. Like Streeterville almost flipped red.
Okay.
And I think the only reason why Streeterville didn't flip red was because people were worried about the Project 2025
Right.
stuff like that. And then also, I think a lot of people didn't want to feel guilty for not voting for a black woman.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But the Asian community, Chinatown, they voted red.
Hmm.
Bronzeville almost made red, and Bronzeville is a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
think people that understood um, how much money that this administration, from the local, state, and the federal, especially the local and state, because the federal wasn't really sending that much money. It
Hmm.
was really the local and state that were spending our tax dollar on making sure the new people were the new people were welcomed, had everything.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, 7,500 South Shore and a whole bunch of other buildings. Because that was just a building that made national news
Right.
because the raid. But in 2023, summer 2023, it's about 4 or 5 buildings that they were doing illegal evictions. Cook County and the city was working on doing illegal evictions to get these people out so they can move these illegals in. It was illegal. It was migrants everywhere. When I
Hmm.
say everywhere, it was like a scene out of a movie. Like if anybody was to go back in the summer of 2023 that I saw, they said this happened even when Lori Lightfoot was in office the last year.
Hmm.
From the police stations to oh my God, the emergency rooms at the hospital.
Yeah.
Like it really was like a scene out of a movie. So when people tell me what Donald Trump is doing is inhumane, I'm like, you don't think it was inhumane what the last administration did? You don't think
Right.
it was inhumane that they let 22 million people over here and they stole their resources? So and then the ones who did come over here because they really were seeking asylum, because don't get it wrong, let's sit here and say that there were ones that did, but those people now are caught up in a scam because the last administration knew that this generation, not just blacks,
Mm-hmm.
whites, Hispanics, Asians, Africans, everybody that assimilated to this culture, American culture, and grew up without the segregation and the racism and the prejudice and all this stuff, knew that the Democratic Party's getting weird, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
getting weird. These independent candidates ain't hitting either.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. I guess I'm either going to sit out or I'm voting for Trump. I voted for Trump already. Trump. I mean, y'all said Trump was a bad guy, but Trump really wasn't a bad guy. This is what people were thinking about,
Right. Right.
So, and when people started seeing that, I mean, when the Democratic Party started seeing that they did not have that, they couldn't play that victim anymore. They couldn't keep saying that the white man is the one that's keeping us down and we're oppressed, and this manufactured narrative of that every white man that is over 60 and as a Republican that they're anti-black. Nobody's not going to continue to
Right.
deal with that.
Now
We
you
can't.
make a good
Yes,
point on that. You make a really good point on that because, and I think more people are doing that. They're starting to say, okay, I don't have to look at the branding of a party. I got to pay attention to how things are actually being run. Because to your point, a lot of people don't understand that most of the problems that, black people had, in my opinion, in this country were not necessarily just federal. Yeah, no, just to your point, like I think that people don't realize a lot of the civil rights issues were a state issue at first. They weren't necessarily just
right,
federal. That's the reason why a lot of the movement had to go to federal because they had to bypass all the stuff that was happening in
right,
statewide. So I think that what you guys are doing, I think, is important because you have to understand that it's not about the Republicans as a party of the whole country. People have to understand that what's going on in Chicago is specific to Chicago, and every state has their own problems. But I think what is very interesting about what you said, and kind of what I've been trying to report on this channel, is that so I find it interesting that when it comes to immigration, I think that a lot of black people in Chicago, for example, some are like on the front lines at some of these protests, like the No Kings protests and a lot of the immigration protests. And I do understand. I've seen a lot of different ICE interactions as everybody else has in person or on TV, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. But ultimately, people have to look at it and say, well, how did we get into that situation in Chicago? And to your point, I think that there's a lot of things that are kind of skated over as to where a lot of illegal migrants were placed, and I just find it weird. So what do you think about a lot of people who are black who are having illegal migrants in their neighborhoods, and then at the same time, it's like for the South Shore raid and other raids, it's like I'm like, man, it's not like they're going after black people, but it's like they put the people that they'll be targeting or that would be necessarily targeted in the future. The last administration did put them in black neighborhoods. So I just
yeah,
find that interesting, for people to get out there and want to
yeah. I think
protest.
it's the fault of the CTU. It's the fault of these paid off preachers and priests like Father Flager. You're dealing with a design now. When they say that everything is done by design, placing them in our community was designed. That was designed, and the reason why, because if Kamala would have got in there, they would have continued their mission with making us the new class of homelessness. If you would, that was that.
Mm,
Number two was they knew that if Trump, well, they didn't think Trump was going to get in there, but now Trump is in there. Now it's a vendetta. We're going to make it hard. Chicago's not going to work
hmm
with you. Now you see Mayor Browser. Muriel Bowser from DC, she ended up finally saying, all
Mm,
right,
right.
Memphis mayor, you didn't even see him. He didn't even fold. He didn't even, I don't even know who the mayor is over there in Memphis because he didn't say,
Yeah, I mean they started off against it, and then they kind of just acquiesced and understood, like, okay,
yeah,
well, it looks
like,
like
look like it's working,
it's
right?
working.
Because you got to think too, well, I don't want to lose my mayor position. It really ain't that, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, if this works, cool. And then I'm not gonna, so why is our mayor wanting to go on strike now? Now you want to do a general strike. You wanna stand ten. You wanna. We're gonna stand. We're gonna fight Trump. No, you're not. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna fight
Right.
Trump. Like the Democratic Party has made poverty a lifestyle. Poverty is not a lifestyle, and you're not gonna continue to sit here and say that we are impoverished. No, you're making us impoverished. This Marxism, this communism, this socialism agenda that you think you guys are going to continue to push on people who don't want to be there. I don't want people to saying like, well, what are you? I'm a capitalist with the big C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I am too. I think that you're right. I mean, a lot of it is just branding, and it's interesting that you say that because a lot of people are going to say, well, Trump is trying to militarize the streets and stuff like that, and ultimately, I think the other option, if let's say for instance, like you said earlier, let's just say if Kamala won, let's say that what I think, we'll never know what would have happened, but I think what would have happened if Kamala won, obviously everybody who came over the border would have still been here, and I think
They said it
they
was
wouldn't have
5
done
million
anything.
at the
I think they
border waiting.
wait, yeah, exactly. Right. It would have been a whole lot more because you're right. There was a whole million just
Right.
waiting to come in. A lot of them turned around and was like, on the eve of the election, they was like, okay, let me just turn around because I ain't gonna be able to do this. And but I think ultimately, to your point, nothing would have been done, and people have to take a look at America in the sense of, okay, what are we gonna do? Especially if you're talking about the black community, what are we gonna do with what we have? And again, understanding where we live and locally, because if you don't understand that, you're screwed. And I think that's the biggest thing. So if she had won, I think all the migrants would have just kept coming. And what that means, and I was talking about this before the election last year, leading up to the presidential election. I was like, you could see a lot of the Chicagoans at the time were talking about that. I didn't know you at the time, but I was following a lot of people at all these meetings talking about their concern about the voting base and feeling like, yo, as the black community, we're about, honestly, right now, the black community is already outnumbered. So our numbers are down. We're like 12, 13%. And it's no
Right.
disrespect to any other community, but the point is that these things have to be addressed. And I think that it's not, ice raids and stuff are not pretty, but it's like, well, what happens if nothing had happened?
But was it
If
pretty?
nothing had
Was it
happened as
pretty
far as people
when
cleaning it up.
in the '90s when the crime bill happened? Was it pretty when social services will go in the house to make sure the man wasn't in there in order to get you your, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
Correct.
the
Yeah.
Democratic Party made the single mother. The Democratic Party
Right.
emasculated the black man. You don't care if our children read. You don't even care if they don't even know how to uh, write in cursive. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they
Yeah, it's
don't even
bad.
know what
It's bad.
manuscript is. But you want them to identify as a different sexual orientation at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, gender neutral bathrooms in elementary schools. I mean, it's gotten to the point
Yeah.
we can sit here and talk about, people are talking about, oh, the Epstein files, care about them Epstein files. I want to know why, what made y'all feel like gender neutral bathrooms in the elementary schools was appropriate.
I think if you're not experiencing it, you
Right,
don't really see it. And I think a lot of people who don't live in cities like Chicago um, don't really
right,
understand that. So, well, let me ask you a question in regards to
right.
the future. So, what do you see for Chicago? Do you think there's a possibility of a Republican candidate who could come forth and really garner that level of support and understanding from the broader
Yeah,
community? Do you think that's
I'm
something
rooting
you're gonna see?
for Danielle Carter.
I was gonna ask you about Danny C. I was gonna say I've been seeing a lot of people like she should run for mayor. So I was like,
Yeah, I
what's the
want her to
word?
run for mayor. And we talked about it, and I think she's going to do it. I think that she has a great chance
Nice,
of winning.
nice.
And her husband was a retired police officer for almost 30 years. He really retired. He said he couldn't take it anymore, just watching all these migrants coming and sleeping in the police stations. They got all types of, I mean, everything, lice. They got all the bed bugs, everything. They could drink, smoke, fornicate, prostitute, party. But when it came to the
Hmm.
homeless, Chicago homeless, when it used to be real cold, they could go in there and sleep for a minute, but then they had to get up out of there. So he said to see the
Hmm.
difference, and they couldn't do anything. They had to watch them commit crimes, watch them smoke, drink, all up in the police station, and couldn't do
Hmm.
nothing, couldn't say nothing, couldn't do nothing because we're a welcoming city. He said he could, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think
He said
people
he couldn't
believe
do it no
that's
more.
real.
He said, and that's when he retired. He retired as soon as Brandon Johnson got in there. He retired
Wow.
because it was what he said was worse with Lori. It was Lori. Lori, lit the fuel. She lit the fire.
Yeah.
Man, what's his name? He pissed on the fuel and Brandon Johnson.
Oh,
But
Brandon Johnson.
yeah, so I think between and then her being from Terrytown, which is a place around South Shore,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
and this her city. She love her city, and I think that she would do great. I think that like we always say, we didn't choose this life. This life chose us. Um, and I think
Right.
with me
Right.
being by her side, being her advisor, or I think that I think
But listen, you definitely turn up. Everywhere I see you, you definitely turn up in a real good way because again, I think that you know, it's not like I said, it's not about
right,
agreeing with everything. But what I always tell people, the reason why, we first talked, I was like, I want to talk with her because she's stating
right,
actual grievances. It's not about and again, I don't look at it like, oh, I'm out, you're out here like, oh, it's about the whole Democrat Party and I hate everybody in the Democratic Party. No, it's really about, okay, she has specific grievances based on where she's actually at. And I think that it's important because I think putting the pressure on on the Democrats in Chicago is
right,
important. You know what I'm saying? And look, if you're in another city and you have Republican leadership and it's horrible, you
right.
should apply pressure. I think that's what we're supposed to do. You know what I'm
That's what I
saying?
try
So
to tell people all the time.
I had somebody ask me the last interview we did, a friend of mine, he asked me, he's like, well, I don't understand how that's gonna help in Chicago. And I had told him, I said, well, I think that you gotta apply pressure. That's the whole reason why we have the system we
Yeah,
do.
I'm pro
So,
government.
I
You
think
understand? There's some
uh
people that aren't pro
hmm
government. I'm pro government. I'm going to be pro government until it gets overthrown. It's never going to get overthrown. And so it's never going to get overthrown. The
yeah,
issue is we don't want to
yeah,
get in politics. And politics is a
right.
sport. It's a game.
Facts.
Dick Gregory told me it was a game, and I never understood what he was talking about.
Hmm.
But now, me getting in this, it's a game. So it's just like you trading to. I mean, I never been on the Democratic side like that, but it's like me being a coach, and then I picked Jordan. Jordan is my Danielle, and my thing is I
Yeah.
have Lynetta Thomas. You're gonna see more of her, Lynetta Thomas. So you've got Miss Jessica. You've got a lot of you got Vashawn. Vashawn is a conservative from Inglewood. The conservative Chicago conservative. You got
Okay.
Mr. Dennis. Got Carter. You've got a lot of Mama Doris. You got a lot of good players that can get your point across to
Mm-hmm.
everybody, all masses. I have to deal with. I'm gay. I'm a lesbian. I have to deal
Mm-hmm.
with my friends saying, well, the Republican Party don't care about no gay people. You know what I'm saying? And I have to deal with the Democrats saying that why would you be over there? You know what I'm saying? While they but
I know.
why they try to make fun of me at the same time? You know what I'm saying? But and I
They looking at you like by default you're a
yeah,
walking contradiction. You automatically should be a Democrat. But I think it says a lot because you're not just focused on yourself. You're really focused
yeah,
on
I'm for
what is
family, so
actually
I'm
right.
super
No.
family oriented, and I am for
Mm-hmm.
freedom. I'm for the U.S. I'm for this country being a republic. Also for freedom of speech. But if we do not um, get our family dynamic back to a place where our grandparents and great grandparents were, then we're doomed. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to learn how to, if you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to be in a marriage or a relationship, you have to learn how to co-parent. And a lot of we have an issue with the
Right.
co-parenting, but you have to learn how to co-parent because you're teaching a child that even if you and your mate do not stay together, you still have this angel that you have to raise, or you can raise a demon.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to raise? And a
Yeah.
lot of and a lot of people are having these kids and then using these kids as weapons in our community, and we continue to go further back and back and back. Yeah.
Right backwards. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's very interesting because um to be gay and to be conservative um is surely not an easy thing in that sense. And I agree with you. I think we black people, I think, I'll even say Americans. I think it is a time to also look to be more conservative because everything that you talk about, and I think the underlying, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think the underlying reason why a Chicago flips red is because of fiscal irresponsibility. And
Yep.
I think that's one of the things that is the biggest thing I've seen. And I'm happy, whether you like what's happened since Donald Trump has got in or not. I think that the time that has been brought forth now, we now at a point where people are starting to, even if they're not paying attention really deeply, they're starting to understand. Okay, the issue is how is the money being spent? Because we always talk about education being underfunded. We always talk about neighborhoods. We talk about taxes, and the reality is there's a lot of places that are a lot of issues or a lot of sections that are funded, but the
Yep.
money is not spent right, and people don't understand. There's a skim. There's a skimmer on the skim. You know what I'm saying? So people got to understand that. So I think that's something that you guys are
Yeah, because
really, whether people understand it or not,
yeah,
is what you guys are
economically
getting
it
at.
makes no sense. And like I tell people all the time, like I, you can be mad at me. You can sit here and say, Well, both of them are trash. I don't know, man. Like we never gave 90%. Give me eight. Give me 2 times. Give me 2 times with Republican back to back
Right.
in the White House, and then we'll talk about it. But until then, I'm not. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
nothing because we need actually
Yeah.
12 years. But I'll do 8 just to show
Yeah.
you that the Democratic Party is not for us. You know what I'm saying? If we were going somewhere that I don't even want to. I don't even want to know where we would be right now.
No, no, I agree. I agree. I agree 1,000%. We were going somewhere that was pretty dangerous, and I think ultimately, um, look, and you said this earlier too, and I tell people too, like, look, at the end of the day, like you're gonna have negatives
Right.
regardless to who's in office. Um, but I do think that and again, like I said, just to give you all props, I think what's important is for people to focus on local government is extremely important. And I think that if there's focus on local government, that to me spreads out to the broader federal government. I think the way y'all are doing it is actually the way you're supposed to do it. Because everybody thinks that it happens federal and then it comes local. I think it's really local and that spreads out. That sets the temperature for everything. So I think that and again, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Even if Danielle runs for mayor, whether you called yourself Republican, Democrat, whatever it is, if she's in there and you have people who are like, yo, we need to do a better management of the funds.
Right.
We need to manage the city better. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be a great thing for Chicago because people, if you're not paying attention, I mean, the one, what is it,
Yeah. one
$1
point
billion
two.
dollar deficit, $1.2 billion deficit. I also, Danielle referenced a couple of days ago, if people don't know, talked about the amount of money that's been spent on illegal alien healthcare
Yeah.
over the last few years. It's
$6
1.6
billion.
billion
Like
dollars.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to. Just recently, she just was on the evening edit earlier today, and we were at lunch, and she was like, we were talking, and I was like, do you know they almost spent probably close to it was they say it's 300 million, but I would say it's more than that. But I say close to $1 billion on a no protest, on a no kings protest. Now y'all spending $300 million. This is the 5 billionaires who co-sponsored this no kings protest. $300 million they said they spent. I believe it's much more than that, but we'll just say that
Mm.
that $300 million could have went towards the health care that y'all are trying to push in this budget. That's why we had this government shutdown. The Democratic Party will sit and scream about millionaires and billionaires while you just funded a no kings protest against a billionaire, 5 billionaires versus 1 billionaire. You think because the billionaires, because they're not out here like George Soros and stuff, is not out here in the front. So, but they can fund these no kings protests, and it's fine. Like that's how sick the Democratic Party is. Y'all just wasted $300 million, and y'all keep wasting millions of dollars on these no kings protests because they all suck. But you can take
Now, let me ask you: when you say they spent the money, just so people don't understand,
they
like
are they
how
they
how
are
how would
they're
you say they're
giving them
spending the money?
to
Logistics.
Indivisible, all the communist parties who are sponsoring these movements, right? So the Democratic Socialists of America, Indivisible, that's like the gay people, and then you have some others. It's a whole bunch of them, but they all the teacher unions, all that. These 5 billionaires: Soros, Arabella, $97,682,150. Soros, $72,715,700. Tides, $54,898,710. Ford, $51,744,680, and Rockefeller $28,689,820. These are the 5 donors, billionaires. So five. So it's really 5 against 1. Donald Trump. It's an ego thing, and they're playing on the brainwashed over here with the Democratic Party because they're all undiagnosed over there. And I told you, them people need mental health for real. And then you're dealing with the real working class, the real entrepreneurs, the real people who understand business.
You know, it's interesting though too, because I think that what you just said, and in relation to how people react to it, I think that in the I'll just say the black community and maybe the brown community too, I think that there's more of a fear of racism than there is a fear of mismanagement and
Right.
being mistreated. Um, so I think that that's the biggest thing. It's almost like I rather have someone that look like me mismanage my funds or embezzle money or um or invite other groups of people into my community. They rather take all that than the prospect of racism or racist. And I think it's breaking down slowly, but I think that's the disconnect. I think that's the disconnect when you have people who are black who obviously see that they are being um being scapegoated to kind of jump in there and it's like you don't want to complain about the things you just said because it's like you don't want to be anti-immigrant. And they've done a good job, I think, of branding that stuff to say that these are black and brown issues, you know. And I think that that's actually worse than the racism to me. And I think that hopefully we can keep
But no, you're
digging through that
absolutely right.
because
I watched the
we got what's
lady.
going on.
We went. I was in CHA board meeting last Tuesday, and the lady is on the board. She has a Section 8 voucher, but her boyfriend's sister and daughter has had $22 million in CHA contracts, cleaning contracts. Right? It's crazy. And um, there was a lady who went in there, and she says, "Y'all want to sit here because y'all want to sit here and talk about her. I want to sit here and talk about her. Let's talk about these white developers, man. I want to talk about why is this lady is sitting on this CHA board with a Section 8 voucher still, and her family and got $22 million in contract. And the only reason why she got caught was because her sister was trying to um, get a contract. I mean, the contract was like $47,000. She was trying to get the CHA to pay like triple the amount. You understand? So that's the only reason why she got caught up. But the fact that you sitting on this board and you hold a CHA voucher is what I'm talking about when it comes to the abuse. But you got people that will say, well, I mean, I understand she's doing that, but look at all them white developers. It's like, but like, fam.
Right.
The issue is we continue to let this stuff happen. White people don't let this continue to happen. Like, let any of them white developers f over any of them white people in their community. Let one of them white developers knock down one of their buildings over there. Do you think that them white people will let that happen? They would never let it happen, but you would never know because it's never going to get on TV. They don't have to go. They're going to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Or the developer or the development company is going to pay them. So it'll never get to where my issue is with my mom or Miss Jessica or Danielle when it comes to her may lose her building because they rezoned it out the TIF district, so she couldn't get any money to rehab it. But she spent all this money. Her and her husband spent all this money on this building, and she bought the building because it was in a TIF zone and an
Mm.
opportunity zone. Only for her to, when she get the building, they rezone it because somebody want that building. Y'all not gonna keep scamming us. You understand? So that is what
Yeah.
we're dealing with. But we have normalized that as long as we do it to each other, we shouldn't really talk about it. Or why you want to, like even Brandon Johnson's girl said, why are you always getting on Brandon Johnson? Why not? He's the mayor. He's the mayor.
Yeah. Why not?
Like if I
He's
was
the
the
mayor.
mayor,
Yeah. You're
you
right.
think I would
You're
let
right.
somebody stand outside for 17 weeks? I just became mayor. I want to be a hero. That's the first thing I would have looked at was, let me see
Yeah.
what she's talking about. Then if I seen the corruption, I'm like, oh hell
Yeah.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? I would have been, yeah, like you let your ego birth really Chicago Fist Red. You let your ego, but you will forever. Brandon Johnson will forever be known of the person who helped Chicago Fist Red become a thing because he thought that he was going to ignore black us because we're black because that's what they're used to doing. They're used to Democratic Party's used to ignoring us, used to throwing a little Section 8 voucher in our give us a little couple of dollars. Okay, you go over there now, go get us a little job. And say, I'll get you a little job. What you want? What you want? Get you a
Hmm.
little city job. Go put you over there on the side. You know what I'm saying? And then that's it. No.
I think the point that you made is important. I think that if you ask me, my thing is that I think for people to pay far more attention to local
Yeah.
government. I think to be more physically conservative, I think is the key, and that goes for both parties. At the end of the day, being more physically conservative is important because running at a big deficit is a problem. That's the first indication of a big problem. If you have a huge deficit, it's just like if you run in your house. If you had a large deficit in your house, that's the first indication something's wrong. Something has to change. So I think that's a big part of it. And I honestly think that whether you're talking
Yeah,
about
but it
federal
starts with your
government or local
local
government, I think
because
that the
and I want to make this very clear
start with your
too.
local.
I didn't even know Brandon Johnson. I
Yeah.
didn't even know this was the year of a new mayor when I decided to come back to Chicago and fight this fight with my mom. I just knew that hey, somebody gonna settle
Hmm.
this case. Like I don't want to hear about it no more. You know, y'all wrong. Y'all know y'all wrong. Y'all should be taking my mother through the blues with this. But when you look at it, if this would have been a Republican city, you know what I'm saying? I would have, and I wouldn't get no help. You understand? I would have went the other way. You understand? I never, yeah,
Of
it was
course.
just like, I need help. You understand? I don't care, red, blue. We got an attorney general who's getting, all the attorney generals are getting paid off. All the judges are getting paid off. The prosecutors are getting paid off. So nobody cares about justice. No one does not want to help anybody get any justice anymore. So even with this election coming up with the governor, there's a lot of governors here that are running as Republicans, and they want our endorsement, Chicago Fist Red endorsement. You're not getting that. I won't even get on the phone with them.
Yeah.
Danny been on the phone with a couple of them. A couple of other people in our group been on the phone with them. I refuse to get on the phone with them because I'm not going to endorse anybody if you're not willing to take on this corruption. The city of Chicago has a corruption issue. They have a corruption problem, and we cannot continue the corruption problem because the corruption problem is we're broke. Okay, the black Chicago on the south side, west side, we have nothing. We have nothing because corruption has
Yeah.
taken everything that we've had in there because you put certain people in there that are vetted African Americans that will do what these white racist Democrats in this city will tell them to do. And if that's to sell out our communities, we will sell out the community. And we have been brainwashed, like you said earlier, that, you know, if I'm getting my ass beat, as long as I'm getting my ass beat by a black person. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody dealing with that.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. I think ultimately, you're right. I mean, there are people, and again, branding is one of the most important things. They brand things from the very beginning when we're kids. You know what I'm saying? Like my kids, they see commercials, they know
Right.
brands that they never even had before. So the branding of Democrat Republican for a long time, if you ask a young black person, a young black boy or girl, let's say high school age, you say, well, who's better for black people,
Right.
Democrats or Republicans? They'll tell you Democrat because that's how they've been. That's what they know. That's what their mama, their grandmama, your grandfather, whoever. And the branding of it is. But I think that's changing. And to your point, younger people have to look beyond the branding and understand, like, yo, what's what's important to me as a constituent? What's important to me? How are things being ran? And to your point earlier, I think it's important for people to be involved in politics. It's not about there's some people who are going to run for office. There's some people who are built for that. But getting involved in politics, I would say a bare minimum is understanding the politics of where you live and understanding what the hell's going on. Because I agree with you. Unless people stop thinking like, oh, as long as I'm getting my ass kicked by someone who look like me, it's all bueno. And that's actually worse than the racism that people are scared of. It's actually worse. And I totally agree with you. So I think that you know you all starting this movement is important, and I hope that look, people criticize, and again, I didn't agree with a lot of things Charlie Kirk had to say, but even that Turning Point organization, those are just organization think tanks who apply pressure and have political alliances and all that. But the point is I like to see um, black groups come together politically, not just to automatically go with the boule, you know what I'm saying,
The
and,
Kool
and, and,
Aid, the
and, and what already
juju.
works.
I call it
Mhm.
juju.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all aren't just going against the grain just to be going
Yeah.
against the grain is my point. So I want people to see that whether they agree with you or not. I see y'all out here. Y'all are showing up to the meetings. Y'all are stating what's going on so people understand the purpose. And I think I applaud you guys. I hope that more young people are like, yo, well,
They
what's that
are
about?
actually. We've
What's that about
last
in
week
Illinois?
three different people, three young people came down and they said like, they were like, yeah, we watch you. Two of them, like two younger women, they were fans of Danny, so they came down there and Danny was explaining to them what this meeting was about and what they're doing. So I think that they are interested. They know something's wrong. They know something's wrong.
Hmm.
they they see they see that the migrants were in our community, and even with that, like, they know something was wrong. So and they want to be a part, and then they
Hmm.
they also see that, okay, well, Danielle is down here, Zoe's down here, Miss Jessica's down here, and we're all come from walks, different walks of life, so you can relate to, a
Hmm.
lot of men relate to me. A lot of women are starting, but a lot of men, especially a lot of white men, a lot of white men will come down there and sit with me and watch, like we watching a game, just watching the meeting, and I break it down, like, you see what I'm talking about, and they're like,
Right.
then they're starting to ask questions, and then they're starting to look, and it's like, yeah, like, you just gotta. If we would be just more aware of what's going on, they would stop playing in our face. No one's ever challenged them.
Right.
Like you said earlier. So that's
Right.
that. I think that's it. I think that if we don't have to be. I'm not perfect. I don't know every. Some things I'm still learning. Like, okay, was that a good move? Then I'll be like, somebody be like, well, Zoe, what do you think? I'm like, I gotta go research that because I've never heard of that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So, but if our this is like gambling, our dollar in this. So
Yeah. Well, look, I appreciate that because, like you just said, for you to say that is important. I mean, yeah, it's not about knowing everything. It's just knowing something is wrong and something has to be done, and you learn as you go along. So I think that's another thing I'd say again, like is important, because people think like, oh, if I'm not, some people sit around and they kind of just spit off statistics and facts, and they say, well, and they're just sitting around talking. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you know something is
Right.
wrong, something is actually wrong. So the debate in and of itself is the important thing, to have the debate first, so you can actually start to change. You can't change anything by just, we can sit back and forth. If you and I got on this and we talked about, oh, well, there's not 22 million migrants, there was only 10. People are arguing about the amount. Oh, it was only 10, and of those 10 or of those 20, they're, most of them are hardworking people. These are all little micro arguments, but at the end of the day, it's like, there are undisputable facts. Chicago has a huge deficit. Chicago put most of the illegal migrants in black neighborhoods. There's no doubt about that, right? Chicago has
Right.
crime. You know what I'm saying? People can argue whether it's number one or not number one, but it does have crime. The unemployment rate is extremely high in Chicago. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Particularly for black youth, and all this, and those are the micro things, and those are the macro things, and all the micro things people don't know about, that you guys are exposing, as far as the building department, the bureaucracy, in a lot of the local departments, the skim of the of the money. So these are beautiful things to really debate and talk about and get out there. So I appreciate you.
Of course.
Well, listen, I no, I listen, Zoe. I appreciate
Yes.
you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on again. And I, don't want this to be the last. I know you're busy.
Yes.
Just keep doing what you're doing. I think what you guys are doing is dope. So just keep doing what you guys are doing.